Welcome to the Astrology Show with your host, Kelly Fox. Each week, Kelly will give you access to the current transits that are a valuable tool which provide astrological information to help unlock the potential each of us has through our sun sign. Understanding the current planetary influences each week can help steer us in the right direction to make better informed choices. Sometimes events in your life may seem completely random, but there is a pattern to the order of these events, one set in motion in part by you and in part by the planets and stars in the sky and their influence on your life here on Earth. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in your week ahead, if you're going to get that promotion, move to a new city, or fall in love, tune in to the Astrology Show for guidance. It can help you anticipate problems before they occur, give you tools to cope with changes, and help you look forward to the wonderful days ahead. Kelly Fox is a professional astrologer and internet pioneer who launched astrology.com, one of the first and most successful astrology websites. Today, her passion lies with her new site, theastrologer.com, where she brings a modern-day approach to an ancient wisdom. Please join Kelly each week to learn more about how the planets can align for you.
Hi there, welcome to the Astrology Show. I am your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox. And on tonight's show, I'm going to be talking about September and what we can expect in September. And it looks like a pretty good month. I mean, the hard stuff, the intense stuff is behind us. You know, there's a little few things here and there, but really nothing compared to how it was during the summertime when we had those eclipses. We had Mars retrograde, Uranus retrograde, Mars squaring Uranus, and so on and so on. So it does look like a much better month, that is for sure, compared to what many of us have been going through. And in particular, if you are a fixed sign, and that's Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, or you have planets in fixed signs, you will be able to relate to what I'm talking about. You know, like way back in May, mid-May, we had warrior planet Mars move into Aquarius, unpredictable Uranus move into Taurus on the very same day, May 15th, and then they immediately were at odds with each other, forming a challenging square. And that continued throughout the Northern Hemisphere summer. And then we had Mars turning retrograde. That was on June 26th. And then we went into eclipse season. So we had a solar eclipse, July 12th. That was the solar eclipse in Cancer. And then we had a lunar eclipse, July 27th in Aquarius. And then in August, we had another eclipse, a solar eclipse in Leo. We also had Uranus turning retrograde, as I mentioned. We also had a Mercury retrograde during summertime, late July through August. And that was in Leo, so that was hard for the fixed signs again. And then when Mars turned direct, and that was last Monday, the 27th, things started to sort of, everything got really fast with Mars turning direct in Capricorn. And then everything's sort of like evening out, leveling out. We're catching up from taking some time off. Just recently celebrated Labor Day, and so now after Labor Day, everything's going to be moving full steam ahead, and hopefully with minimal hiccups, minimal astrological hiccups. Now, we do have a reprieve in September. But then in October, what we can expect next month is love planet Venus will be turning retrograde in Scorpio. And that is a really unusual event because Venus is the planet that turns retrograde the least amount of time. So we're waiting for this Venus retrograde to come upon us, and that will be next month. But in September, we don't have any Mercury retrogrades. You know, we've got Saturn turning direct which is really great news. So if you are a cardinal sign and you're born in the early stages of the cardinal signs, and that's Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn, this is fantastic news for you, with Saturn, planet of responsibility and restriction, finally moving forward after being direct for quite a few months. So September, before I start with September, I'm going to give you the overview of what to expect and what's happening, talk about the highlights a bit more, like Mercury, moving into Virgo and then Libra, and then Venus into Scorpio before it turns retrograde, and then Mars moves back into Aquarius. I'm going to cover those influences a little bit later on, and then I'm going to give each sign their monthly forecast for September. So September does begin with, it's like an air of thoughtfulness and hard work, and that's because Mercury, planet of the mind, planet of communication, moves into Virgo, one of its very favorite signs, so that's good news. That happens on September 5th. So rational thinking is favored over subjective feelings because, Mercury has been in Leo for such a long time because of the retrograde cycle. So Mercury moved into Leo on June 28th. That's a really, really long time ago when talking about Mercury and the cycles of Mercury, because typically Mercury stays in a sign for about 3 weeks. So this is a very long cycle because of the retrograde with Mercury in Leo. But finally, on Wednesday, Mercury will be moving into Virgo, one of its very favorite signs. The other favorite sign, of course, is Gemini. And then, of course, we've got on the 6th is this coming Thursday, a day later after Mercury moves into Virgo, Saturn turns direct in determined Capricorn. So this marks a time of after Labor Day, everything in the US very much gets back to business and everybody gets back on track. So it's a very industrious week this week with Mercury moving into Virgo and Saturn turning direct in Capricorn. But then, maybe next week, or at least it's sort of happening at the end of the week or the weekend, we've got the Sun opposing Neptune. So it's more at the end of the week, it's sort of like everything's firing, everything's ready to go, beginning of the week, and then at the end of the week, with the Sun opposing Neptune, it's very good for sort of brainstorming and any type of creative processes. But don't take anything at face value at the end of this week and early next week, with this weekend, of course. And then we've got mid-September when Venus, planet of love, moves into Scorpio, and it doesn't really like being with Scorpio, and especially in October when Venus will turn retrograde in Scorpio, and that's at about 10 degrees, nearly 11 degrees, it turns retrograde in Scorpio. We have a new moon on September 9th, the same day that Venus moves into Scorpio. And the new moon is in Virgo, so mid-September is a really good time to start, to just have new starts or new beginnings. But it's important, especially because it's in Virgo, this new moon influence, is that it's important to wrap things up. Don't leave things open-ended. And also with this Virgo new moon, it's very much about being flexible and go with the flow. There might be some changes coming, but many of us will be able to turn without much sort of forewarning. And that's simply because Virgo is a mutable sign. The mutable signs, Gemini, Virgo, Sag, and Pisces are very much, they can go with the flow and change at a moment's notice. And then mid-September, we've got Mercury, planet of the mind. It's in Virgo, where it's very strongly placed, but it opposes Neptune. And so that causes a bit of confusion mid-month with this influence, because Neptune is the planet of confusion and misunderstandings. And then when it's in a hard aspect with Mercury, planet of the mind and communication, it's going to be really important to not take anything at face value. It's always important to double check all the facts, and that will be mid-September. And this is especially so if you're a mutable sign, Gemini, Virgo, Sag, and Pisces. So just be careful of any sort of confusion and be sure of people's motives. And then the good news, well, no, not the good news, well, sort of the good news is on the 18th, we've got the final square of Mars and Uranus for this year. So that's definitely going to be a reprieve after September 18th, because warrior planet Mars will be forming a square, a very challenging square, to unpredictable Uranus for the last time of 2018. And that's occurring on September 18th. And it's just been going on throughout the summer. And it's a very volatile energy. It's very feisty and volatile, and we can't predict anything with this type of energy, but it's also very physical. So September, or especially mid-September, is a good time to have some sort of physical outlet. And this is especially so if you are a fixed sign or have any planets in fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. This is a really important time to sort of have or find that physical outlet, because if not, the energy needs to dissipate in some way, and if not, it'll just be bottled up. And confrontation is one keyword that comes to mind with this influence, but Mars forming a square to Uranus is a very volatile and unexpected energy. It's all about anger or people wanting to assert themselves. But the opposite of that is definitely have sort of physical outlet at that time. It's sort of like grab the bull by the horns before the bull, chases you down the street type of thing. So fortunately for the rest of September, though, there's a more positive note. Once we get beyond that Mars-Uranus square on the 18th, it's like it's smooth sailing until, we have to deal with that Venus retrograde, and that will be October 5th. So what's happening later in September is very much about Mercury moving into Libra, a sign that it likes as well. It likes Virgo and Gemini the best. It does like Libra as well, Libra being an air sign. So we're still on track for any sort of intellectual endeavours or pursuits for September. And so on the 21st, Mercury moves into Libra. And so that's very much about being able to connect with others through communication and really having people understand what we're saying. And it's very laid back compared to Mercury and Virgo, even though, yes, Mercury likes being coupled up with Virgo. It's a little bit of a more full-on energy compared to Mercury being coupled up with Libra. And then, of course, September is the month in the Northern Hemisphere for the autumn equinox. And, of course, in the Southern Hemisphere, it's the spring equinox. So that's always really important in the astrological world, because the equinox, the two equinox and the two solstices, I always want to say solstice, the summer solstice, the winter solstice, the fall equinox and the spring equinox are basically the cornerstones of the astrological world. They're very, very important, because our astrology here in the Western Hemisphere is seasonally based. So astrologers mark the change of the season with much celebration. And there have been previous cultures, I'm thinking of the ancient Celtic culture as well. They really marked, the equinox and the solstice and the change of the season. It's very, very important because the fall equinox, it's a time of balance and harmony. And it's when the days and nights are of equal length. Then on the 24th, we have the harvest full moon, and that's occurring in early degrees of Aries. And the full moon, every month we have typically sometimes 2 a month. The second full moon of a calendar month is called a blue moon. And we're going to have an Aries full moon on September 24th. And so this is all about optimism and enthusiasm and a sense of fun and fresh starts and new beginnings. And more so for the cardinal signs or anybody that has planets in cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. But the thing is, of course, there's always something. The Aries full moon, the harvest moon on September 24th, does form a square to Sirius Saturn. And let's take that as a gentle reminder that while we are enjoying life and we're off on our adventures, we still do have our responsibilities to take care of. So there you have it. That is September. And this is what we can expect. And I didn't forget this, but I just took a glance down in my calendar, and I have to say, before I move on the 30th, the last day of the month, we have Pluto, Lord of the Underworld, planet of change and transformation, will be turning direct. So Pluto, it's really not much of a huge event. Anytime an outer planet is retrograde or moving forward again, it's not a big deal, except if it's moving forward and it's exactly on one of your inner planets. Inner planets means Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, even Mars. Actually, even any of the planets. Come to think of the energy of Pluto, and Pluto is turning direct at nearly 19 degrees Capricorn. So if you are born around that time, then this will be in effect for you. On that note, we're going to take a short break, so stay tuned.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers and researchers, pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Hi, this is John Ondrasik of Five for Fighting, here for RAD, the entertainment industry's voice for road safety. You know, style is a personal thing, and your lifestyle is your business. But if you take it on the road, it becomes everybody's business. So please, plan ahead, designate before you celebrate. Friends, don't let friends drive drunk.
A public service announcement brought to you by RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I am your host and astrologer Kelly Fox, talking about the planets this month and what we can all expect. Well, luckily we have a bit of a reprieve this month. Given what's gone on during the Northern Hemisphere's summer, Now we're looking at fall. There were eclipses, retrogrades, squares, you name it. More than the usual, particularly in July and August. But that is all behind us, and Mars, planet of action, is finally moving forward. So that's something we can all be thankful for. And, of course, last weekend we had a grand Earth trine, lovely Pisces full moon. So now we're looking into a new season. September is a month of the autumn equinox in the northern hemisphere. And as I was saying before the break, astrologers really mark the change of the seasons. It's a very important occurrence that happens in the astrological world. So back to September, and Mercury, planet of communication and planet of the intellect and the mind, is moving into one of its very favorite signs of Virgo. The other favorite sign is Gemini. And Mercury is really, really happy when it's in Virgo. And I say a lot, the planets have their favorite signs and their least favorite signs. And Mercury really likes being coupled up with Virgo. So, with this influence, and that's actually happening this week on Wednesday. And so with this influence, and of course everything depends on where these influences fall in your birth chart, but, many of us will have like laser-like focus. It's like no detail will escape our attention. This is a good time to sort of sift and sort through any information with really great efficiency to really get to the essence of what matters the most. Under this influence, we've got enhanced powers of analysis and discrimination. And on the flip side, of course, criticism, but, and also watching that we don't get too caught up on the details and lose sight of the big picture. But overall, when Mercury in Virgo, it's a great time to look at any sort of research or academic research or anything that really requires logic, precision, attention to detail. I'm just looking to see in my calendar. Mercury will be in Virgo from September 5th, and it looks like through the 21st when it moves into Libra. So for that, just over 2-week period, it's a really good time for, focusing on any type of detail or organization or editing. It's really good for like refining or perfecting a process, planning, and being able to like break down complex tasks into small, manageable steps. Many of us won't have patience for any sort of like frivolous conversations, preferring to get straight to the point. It's important that we take time to choose our words carefully because, our speech is going to be direct and efficient and precise. And again, on the flip side, be careful about not to hurt other people's feelings because, many of us might be sharing our truthful observations. That might be one way to think of it. And other people might be a little bit sensitive to that. And just watch for perfectionism as well, because the sun is also in Virgo. So it's important to, know when good enough is good enough. Then we're going to have on the 21st, Mercury will then move into Libra, and it's very happy with this sign as well. So September overall looks like a great month for communication. That's also supported by Mars, warrior planet Mars, moving back into Aquarius, which is an air sign. The air signs, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, are all about the mind. So here's another influence that has September being a good month for any sort of intellectual pursuits. So with Mercury, planet of the mind and communication, moving into Libra on September 21st, this will be a time, let me see when it moves into the following sign. Yes, so September 21st through October 9th, Mercury will be in Libra, and so many of us might find ourselves seeing both sides of any situation because Libra is the sign of balance and it's very good at seeing, it's the mediator of the zodiac, so it's very good at seeing all sides of something. So it might be difficult for some of us to make any type of decision or any sort of commitment. So, many of us will be wanting to weigh the options carefully before making a decision. And, we might find ourselves wanting to be fair to everyone involved in a situation or striking out for justice, looking for win-win outcomes. So if there's any sort of mediation or diplomacy that you need to have or pick a time for, this would be the best time while Mercury is in Libra, and of course Mars will be in Aquarius, which I'll talk about in just a minute. So with Mercury, planet of the mind, in Libra, the sign of diplomacy, at that time, end of the month, we'll be able to see things from different angles. The flip side of that is indecision. Some of us could be fence-sitting or fickle. Other people might think fickle or wishy-washy. But it's a great time for being an excellent diplomat or a negotiator. If there's some sort of contract that you need to sign, that would be a good time to do it. Or actually any time in September after the 5th, once Mercury moves into Virgo. They're very good signs, and Mercury is very happy with those two signs. So when Mercury is in Libra from the 21st on, it's all about grace and charm and being persuasive and able to communicate in a way that other people can hear. It's a lot more smooth than when Mercury being in Virgo is very much, there's no sort of, I'm trying to think of a diplomatic word. I need Mercury in Libra to help me think this through. Using a very diplomatic word when Mercury's in Virgo, even though it's very strongly placed, remember the flip side of that is just being a bit too direct sometimes without fluffing things up. How about that? When Mercury's in Libra, it's about fluffing people's feathers. Is that a saying? Not ruffling, but fluffing people's feathers. So Mercury in Libra is very much about, fluffing people up, whereas Mercury in Virgo is just sort of getting straight to the point. There's no fluffiness going on there. So basically, Mercury in Libra from September 21st onward, it's about being a peacemaker and having a win for everybody and finding compromise. So also in September, we have love planet Venus moving into Scorpio. Now, this is big news. This happens on the 9th, September 9th. Love planet Venus moves into intense Scorpio, and it's not very happy being with Scorpio. Scorpio's a sign that's ruled by Mars. So Scorpio and Mars and Pluto get on really well. But when love planet Venus is hooked up with Scorpio, it's not too happy. And it's especially not happy this time because Venus is going to turn retrograde in Scorpio. And believe it or not, I hear this a lot when Venus is retrograde, that people are getting married. I just heard it the other day. Somebody said that what happened? They knew friends of friends who were getting married in October, and I immediately was thinking, wow, they're getting married when love planet Venus is retrograde. And according to astrologers, when Venus is retrograde, it is the worst time to make a love commitment. And you would be amazed at how many times I've heard people getting married when Venus is retrograde. So Venus will be turning retrograde on October 5th. And then for the rest of October, it will be retrograde all the way through, let me have a look here on my calendar, all the way through November 16th. So love planet Venus will be retrograde in Scorpio all through October and then halfway through November. Now, this is really, really big news because Venus does not like being coupled with Scorpio. So what this means is that a very, very intense connections. We're looking for deep intimacy and intense passion. And it really, as I'm saying it, my visual is someone wrapping their arms around you very tightly and not really letting you go. It's very much about control and manipulation when it comes to relationships. And it's very much about revealing the very core of who you are to somebody else. Not that you're going to be doing it willingly, but that's just the nature of this energy when Venus is in Scorpio, and especially when it's retrograde in Scorpio. And if you are a fixed sign, or have any planets in fixed signs, take note, and that's Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. And there's going to be very much when Venus is in Scorpio from September 9th all the way through mid-November. There's not much patience for the superficial or casual dating or, flittering around. It's very much about having a very deep connection with just one person, and not being afraid of scaring people away, I guess, not concealing your emotions during this time. There could be a fear of vulnerability that could get in the way of creating, the depth of connection many of us will crave. It's all about sharing our most authentic self, and really not being afraid to go really deep with someone, or to, it's a really good time actually to sort of deepen bonds and strengthen our sense of trust with our partner. And working through the shadow sides of this energy, Venus in Scorpio, especially during the retrograde, October 5th on through mid-November, it's very much about it'll be very much about the shadow side of Venus in Scorpio, which is jealousy, abandonment, betrayal, control, manipulation. So just watch out. And I'll be talking about this more and more as it gets closer. Venus turning retrograde in Scorpio. It's a very tough energy. Also in September, we have Mars moving yet again into Aquarius, where it will be done finally for the rest of the year. It will be in Aquarius all the way through November. Why can I not see it here? Oh, yes, here we are, November 15th. So Mars will be in Aquarius from all the way through, where is it, September 10th through November 16th. I'm losing my memory with these dates. I usually have them all in my head, but my calendar is sitting here. Yes, November 15th. September 10th, let me get this right, September 10th through November 15th, Mars will be moving through Aquarius. And this has been a really, really, really long, hard cycle, this Mars in Aquarius. And I won't go through every level of the minutiae here with this, but this year Mars first moved into Aquarius May 15th. And on that same day, on May 15th, Uranus, planet of the unexpected, moved into Taurus, and Mars and Uranus were immediately at odds with each other. And this was going on, a battle through the skies throughout the summer. And so finally, Mars turned direct last week, and it's going to be moving into Aquarius on September 10th. So in next week's show, I will be talking all about that. So Mars finally moving back into Aquarius. It turned retrograde late June, then it continued its retrograde, or its appearance of moving backwards, back into Capricorn. Mars actually likes being with Capricorn, so it wasn't as bad. And then it finally turned direct in Capricorn last week. And did you notice how fast things were moving last week? Everything sped up. I found myself juggling a lot of things at the same time. So that's typically what happens when Mars turns direct. And what feels like it's been retrograde forever, but finally that's all behind us, thankfully. And now we're moving forward with Mars in Aquarius. So what that energy is all about is very much about, sort of breaking free of other people's expectations or wanting to experiment with expressing, our more authentic self. Maybe taking a risk in some way or letting our eccentricities show. And we definitely will not like being told what to do when Mars is in Aquarius. And I'm just looking at my calendar. That's right. I remember this now. So Venus Venus, when it's retrograde, it turns retrograde October 5th, and on October 10th, the Venus retrograde will be forming a challenging square to Mars in Aquarius. Yes, that's right. So relationships will take a big hit at that time, especially if you have any planets in fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. Just be aware of your relationship at this time. There might be some friction and some challenges, and that's just saying it nicely. So this is what to expect. Mars moving into Aquarius September 10th, and the day before, September 9th, we've got Venus in Scorpio. They're traveling along, then Venus turning retrograde in October, and then immediately getting into a punch-up with Mars. So you've got Venus, planet of love, really not getting along, and retrograde not getting along with Mars, planet of passion. So our relationships are really going to be affected in October. So September is definitely a reprieve from all this tough energy that we've been dealing with. So with Mars in Aquarius, it's a very humanitarian energy, and so Mars will be in Aquarius from September 10th all the way through November 15th. So, this is about being a team player when Mars is in Aquarius. So we'll want to take action, but it's more about the collective and others and the group or the greater good rather than our own individual wants and needs. And that's been the energy throughout like late July, August. It's all about, finding that balance between the individual versus the collective. So now with Mars in Aquarius, or next week, Mars being in Aquarius, it will be about, the collective or the group. So, and this energy is all about the future or futuristic things or anything technological or scientific. It's about innovation, brilliant ideas, and inspiration when Mars is in Aquarius. Now, also the other news of the week is Saturn turning, or the week and the month, I should say, is Saturn turning direct in Capricorn. Oh, good timing. We will take a short break, so stay tuned.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Looking for inspiration?
Want to be inspired?
Not sure where to go?
Find Mark and Kim every Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Inspired Living.
Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual.
Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
This is a test to find out if you know it all when it comes to children. Name one of the leading killers of U.S. children age 1 to 13. What's the best way to protect children in a car crash? At what age and size should a child start using a booster seat?
Don't assume you know it all when it comes to car seats for your child. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat and know for sure. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I am your host and astrologer Kelly Fox, talking about the planets this month, and that is September, believe it or not. Just before the break, I started with talking about Saturn turning direct in Capricorn. This is really good news, especially if you're a cardinal sign, and that's Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, because things can start to move forward. Oh, and more so if you're an earth sign. I was just talking about the grand earth trine of last week, and that's Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. Things can start to move forward, especially around long-term plans. And any sort of responsibility can start to move forward. Rewards will come about from hard work. Saturn strengthens and solidifies. So it's very much about discipline. And if we have been good during the retrograde, since Saturn turned retrograde in April, it's now turning direct, it's like we can achieve our practical goals. It's about being realistic, ambitious, hardworking. So it's going to be really important with Saturn turning direct that, you think of long-term plans. Don't take shortcuts or come up with temporary solutions that won't work with this influence of Saturn turning direct in Capricorn. And it's all about experience and maturity and traditions and, of course, lasting value. Now, on to the monthly horoscopes. I'm going to go through each of the 12 signs and give you the what to expect per sign for September. So if you're an Aries, it's really about getting down to business, especially this first week because, Mercury, planet of the mind, is in Virgo, Saturn's turning direct. So it's all about pursuing business and career matters. That's a good use of the beginning of September. And then Mercury will be moving into your everyday work zone when it moves into Virgo. So relationships with colleagues and communicating with colleagues will be much better. And it's going to be easier for you, Aries, to make others aware of your own worth. And then, of course, opportunities on or around September 6th, when Saturn turns direct, should be seized with both hands because Saturn will be turning direct in your career zone. So this is all about long-term planning and, you've been patient, you've worked hard, and the opportunities will start to come about. So, of course, then we've got Venus moving into the most seductive area of your chart. And that's on September 9th. But be very careful of that energy with jealousy and possessiveness. So it's just be aware of that, or control or manipulation. And if you're the one trying to control your partner, they will just bite back. So, and there's also this very tense Venus-Uranus opposition on the 12th. So watch out for that one. And if you're single, it might be best to tactfully avoid a blind date set up by well-meaning friends around this time. Not a good idea at all. And then, of course, for you, Aries, there could be a new surge of self-confidence later in the month, around the equinox, on the 22nd. Mercury shifts into your partnership and love zone at the same time. So later on in September is the perfect time to share your innermost thoughts and dreams with those you care about and trust. And then, of course, the full moon on September 24th is in your own sign, Aries. So that means that some recognition is finally coming your way, and probably most likely in your career and job, career life and job. So that's excellent news, fantastic. You've been waiting, and finally the results will come about, especially now that your ruling planet Mars has moved forward as well. Taurus. So, early in September looks set to be a really uplifting and positive time for you, with plenty of opportunities to have some fun as well. Because Mercury arrives in your play zone, your pleasure zone on the 5th. So find some hobbies and activities which make you think you need detailed attention. And then, of course, Saturn turns direct in your travel zone on the 6th. You may have some itchy feet. So if you can plan travel for pleasure during the first week of September or close to, that would be really great. It doesn't have to be a big long trip. It could just be something short, a short trip. And so watch out, though, for pressure from friends on September 7th. It might be best that you do your own thing rather than fit in with the crowd because the sun at that time is opposing Neptune. So there could be some confusion there. And then also, Taurus, the spotlight does shift to your love life as the month progresses because Venus moves into your love zone on the 9th. And it could be roses and promises all the way. Get that in September before October rolls around. And if you are single, the new moon on the 9th hints at a new romance and maybe quite possibly arriving with a huge bang on September 12th when Venus opposes Uranus, the planet of surprises. So just watch your love life around September 12th. Something completely unexpected may come about. And maybe if you're single, you meet someone unexpectedly or someone comes from a very different, not usually your typical type, let's just say it like that. And then the rest of September does pan out rather nicely and at a steady pace, which is music to your ears. And it's a good time to look at firming up your well-being, mentally and physically. And then with Mercury shifting into your health zone on September 21st, talking therapies may be especially beneficial. Hi, Gemini. I guess you're hoping to have it all as September starts, the job, the family, the lifestyle, the glamour, the money, and the whole lot. Well, I guess we can all hope. So Mercury shifts into your family zone on September 5th, so it's a good time to address the work-life imbalance and to seek an understanding from family members when you have to work late. Get it all out into the open, but don't expect everyone to be on your side. There could be some resentment building this month with family members. There could be some anxious moments as well as a Sun-Neptune opposition reminds you on the 7th. So just be really clear with communication with colleagues and family members especially. And be careful of promises mid-month, which won't necessarily materialize. And it's all got to do with this work-life balance. And then, the Mercury-Neptune opposition, again, suggests that a well-intended solution may not work out too well. So just get creative, think creatively, don't force something, and just sort of go with the flow. Because ideals and reality don't always coincide. And just watch that Mars-Uranus square on September 18th. But luckily, for most of the signs, the mood shifts as the month progresses. Mercury arrives in your pleasure zone on the 21st, and then the Sun, of course, September 22nd. So there's a lighthearted vibe at the end of the month, which helps to dispel any tension and resolve any family arguments. And it'd be also a nice time for a vacation. Cancer the crab. As September begins, you're on a fact-finding mission, and communication and education are very much on your mind. So if you're thinking about starting a new course of some kind, beginning of the month, especially when Mercury moves into your intelligence zone, and this could be all-consuming for some of you out there. And, maybe your responsibilities this month might get slightly more complex as the month goes on. And there might be some conflict. But then, of course, love planet Venus shifts into your play zone on the 9th. Don't be guilty. Just have some fun and just go with it. And just avoid someone who loses their temper on the 18th because there's a difficult aspect on that day. And then, of course, the latter part of September is family-focused. And Mercury, planet of communication, arrives in your family zone on the 21st. So it's a time when, put down your roots, think about your family history, and get a sense of belonging. That will be really important. Leo, for you in September, values are likely to be a key word for you this month. And it's a tangible value, which is more so on your mind, because Mercury arrives in your money zone, and you'll want to be making intelligent decisions about your finances, etc. And then, of course, Saturn turns direct in your everyday work zone on the 6th, so it helps you get back into the full swing of work and earning a living. But just be aware of overspending on the 7th when the Sun opposes Neptune. And it's clouding everyone's judgment, really. And so then Venus will be arriving on the 9th in your family zone. So you'll focus more on the warmth and love of your family. So that's going to be really important to seek support there. And then the last part of the month is all about communication and the power of words. Show your true leadership through what you actually say and use your words wisely. Virgo, September is a mixed bag for you. There's a lot of, energy around your own sign. But maybe you're not telling yourself the whole truth just yet. Your ruling planet Mercury arrives in your own sign, so that's great news. You can really focus in on the detail. You've got the powers of reason and very, very much about intellectual endeavors. But sobering Saturn turns direct in your passion zone on the 6th. So just sort of sort that through. There could be some communication issues or confusion with the Sun opposing Neptune. Try not to bury your head in the sand on that one. And then when love planet Venus moves into your intelligence zone on September 9th, you'll be able to see a situation more clearly. The new moon is in your own sign on the 9th, so it's a good time for new beginnings or new projects. It's a good time to focus on the values you share with others this month. And the next day, like on the September 21st, and then the next day, the equinox, is a good time to focus really again on your values. That's sort of like the theme of the month. Libra, spiritual growth is really high on your agenda this month. Because Mercury arriving in your spiritual zone. Trust your instincts, trust your intuition this month. Don't take anybody at face value. We've got that Sun-Neptune opposition. It's really important to really just sort of meditate and listen to your dreams. And what feels good with Venus arriving in Scorpio, it's all about what you value and what's important. Be very careful around the 12th. Venus opposes Uranus, so feelings will run very high and unexpected repercussions may come your way, especially around the 18th. Be careful, that week between the 12th and the 18th with Venus opposite Uranus, Mars square Uranus. Love and passion are highly volatile at that time. So things settle down a bit, at the end of the month, Mercury and the Sun move into your sign, so it's all good again. Scorpio, for you this month, you're all about community action, which gives you a very strong sense of purpose. You're the perfect person to lead in a crucial project. Mercury arrives in your community zone. So it's sort of like thinking of others. Everybody's thinking of this win-win situation. It's important with Saturn turning direct in your communication zone. Others will look to you, to look to your words, what you say. And then, of course, Venus, the planet of love, arrives in your own sign on the 9th. And so this gives you even more confidence. And then the new moon in your community zone, it's all about others and your community, helping others, supporting others, and seeing where you fit in the group. Be careful about tempers flaring around the 18th with Mars squaring Uranus. But, it's all good again. It's like trust your instincts at the end of the month, and it should be smooth sailing for a little bit. That sounds like too optimistic because Venus, planet of love, will turn retrograde in your sign, but I'll talk about that next month. Sagittarius, your attention is firmly on your career this month, and, for good reason. It's a really productive time for you. Good strategies around money. Saturn turns direct in your money zone, so think long term. New moon in your career zone, new beginnings with work and job. And the good news is at the end of the month, there's a lot of imaginative energy, so it's a great time for brainstorming. Capricorn, This is good news for you because Mercury's in your travel zone, and so if you're looking to travel or thinking of travel, it's a great time to plan. At the same time, Saturn turns direct in your own sign. This is fantastic news for you, especially around any sort of long-term plans or any sort of restriction or obligation eases up a little bit for you. And then mid-September, it's be very careful between the 12th and the 18th because we've got some pretty tough energies there, but find a creative solution to any sort of problem that should get you through. Aquarius, for you, September offers a perfect opportunity to face your hidden fears head on, and you for once might be able to deal with them and put them behind you. Trust your instincts. Saturn turns direct in your spiritual zone, your intuitive zone. It's sort of like others will look to you for your profound insights. And you'll start to make progress around September 9th when a full moon in your psychology zone helps you understand that this is all within your own control. You can make stuff happen and manifest at work mid-month, but be careful with Venus opposing Uranus on the 12th. And then, of course, the 18th, Mars to Uranus. But beyond that, everything looks so much better and moving forward. And the full moon on the 24th will encourage even more rational thinking, and it shows just how far you've actually come. Pisces, love is very much on your mind in September, and that's really great news. Let someone you love know how you really feel and how much you care. And then, of course, something might have been hidden or put away, but September 9th with the new moon changes all that. So be bold and look for the truth in a relationship. And then there's intimacy zone, the Sun and Mercury. It's a great time for passion. And the full moon on the 24th will bring you and your sweetheart closer together more than ever. Did I say that right? Ever. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for joining me. This is The Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox, wishing you a great week. Be sure to tune in